welcome back to the Franchise Growth Show, the show where we talk with founders that are building franchise models that scale with clarity, discipline, and long term value. Today's guest is Matt Gorman, the founder of Matty Steakburgers, a fine casual restaurant brand turning nostalgia, engineered product, and systems into a multi state franchise platform. Matty G's blends premium steak burgers, an unexpected menu strategy, and a mini Hall of Fame experience designed to drive loyalty, dwell time, and repeat business without losing any operational efficiency. So today we're going to break down what makes that concept scalable, what franchisees need to get in early, and how Matt is growing the brand without diluting what actually made it special. So first and foremost, Matt, thank you for being on, sir.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to end the year like this.
Heck yeah, this is a way to close out 2025 into 2026.
You know it.
So let's go back to the beginning if we could.
Sure.
Geez, it didn't start, with a market study. It started with memories of watching games with your dad and your grandfather, right? So how did those moments ultimately become the architectural blueprint for the brand you have?
When growing up, my dad actually had a baseball card shop, a memorabilia shop that I worked at when I started at 11. No child labor laws. Who cares about that, right? But worked at that shop and we had all this memorabilia and I wanted to start a restaurant. And we actually had a sushi spot that was not doing so well. So we had a idea of doing, let's do burgers, hot dogs, things I love. Went to my dad and went, we need to do a sports theme. My wife and I had talked about it and he's like, we have a bunch of stuff from the store back in the day. We went through the garage, he went through, found the memorabilia, and today he still does all the memorabilia at the restaurant. But what comes from sports, he's 78, I believe now, and what comes from sports is all these great memories, with my dad was always kind of like my best friend, my grandfather, all the great memories from childhood seem to be right around sports. So we decided to do a Matty G's based on the sports aspect. And we had all these old school sports memorabilia from tchotchkes to pictures to gloves to everything. And that's kind of how we decided to make the decor. And then really, I was a big fan of Steakburgers. And so kind of a couple buddies of mine, we kind of went to, let's say rivals, we'll say, and kind of was able to see how they cook them. And then we went on YouTube, which today's world is so different than the past, where you can do that. And we must have gone through 100 pounds of meat from all different types of people trying to find that perfect meat. I don't think any of us ate hamburgers for weeks after when we were first starting. And we tried it. We found one that was based out of Southern California that had tested the meat multiple times to make sure that it was clear of any bacteria or anything. And we started that way, and the rest, as I say, is history.
That's an amazing origin story right there. That's awesome. A whole lot of nostalgia built in there. At what point did you realize that it wasn't just nostalgia, but it was something that could scale?
What happened was we got a lot of positive feedback, and we were doing a lot of things that worked well as far as our menu. It's evolved over time. At first, it was kind of hey, we got to have a little for everything. And then I'm not the skinniest kid. I don't know if you could see in this picture, but I like to eat. And so we eat out. I like to try things. I cook at the restaurants. So a lot of times on downtimes, I'm like, we tried this with that and this with that. And what it's evolved into is something for everyone. And that's when we had the restaurant initially in Fullerton, downtown Fullerton, and then we opened up in Murrieta, a second restaurant. And I always tell the story because it still cracks me up to this day. And the third day, we opened on a Saturday, and the third day you expect a Monday to be slow. We do soft openings. We don't try to get too crazy because, crazy with the world of Yelp and Google and everything else. You get some bad reviews and things go bad. So we just opened the doors. We had a nice Saturday, nice Sunday. I had another business at the time, a construction business. So Monday I had my manager there with, enough employees, I thought. And I get a call at 11:15. We have 45 people here as the doors opened. And I was like, holy blank. And I was like, I'm an hour away. Do your best you can. We had, our kitchen manager from the other store there. And that's when I kind of realized, you know what? It's really cool. And then one day, what's interesting to me, might not be for everybody else, is you have cameras for restaurants. And you always look in to see that, make sure things are going well. There's things you look for. And there was one day where I was just sitting and it was a full restaurant. I wasn't there. It was on a Saturday night. And I just saw families sitting on the tables together and talking and laughing. And I didn't have I didn't have the sound on, but you could tell they were enjoying, and smiles, and people were eating and plates were empty. And that's when I went, you know what? We got something. And that's what was special to me. It was that one thing that just went, we got this. And so that was the reason to expand. Unfortunately, COVID came and altered our plans. So we adjusted, but now we're doing the franchise model and hoping that others want to be part of something special that I saw that day and continue to see on a daily basis.
That's amazing. Anytime that you can bring families together and create memories is fantastic, and especially if it's one that can connect generations. You have, I think, your father, your grandfather's been involved in this business, and now you're able to do that for your customers. That's amazing.
My
So
dad, like I
steak
said,
burgers.
my dad
Sorry,
is 78 and still gets up on the ladder and hangs up all the decor, and memories come back for him, and then he'll tell stories. And that's the goal for us, is to have the generations sit at a table. We have it on the first part of our menu, where hopefully a grandfather can tell stories about Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays that a grandkid doesn't know about. So maybe they'll put their phone down, stop texting, being on Instagram, and listen to these stories, because sports stories can't die. They're too.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're talking to a huge sports fan right here. So I couldn't agree with that more. And please put your phone down, people, especially when it's dinner time and the family's around. Listen to granddad's stories. They might sound boring at the beginning, but I promise you they're always great at the end. So
100%.
that's fantastic. Steak burgers. I'm a huge fan of steak burgers, which I know you are as well. But steak burgers to like the average person can sound simplistic, but yours is actually kind of engineered. So what is different about the product, and why does that matter in the crowded category of food/restaurant?
Well, for steak burgers, that is our niche. We have a full menu, but steak burgers is where, if somebody were to come in, I want them to try this first. What we do is we take like a 4-ounce hockey puck. Like I said, we originally got from a company out in California that tested it multiple times to make sure that it's safe. And we put it on a puck. We cook it for about a minute 20 on one side. We flip it another 30 seconds. And then everybody laughs at me, and you're probably going to laugh at me too, and anybody watching. Our initial smash device, I had a construction company. So it was my mechanic put it together with cast iron. And then the handle was a handle for a hammer. So that's the original one. And we've evolved since, but I like to smash it, or flatten it as I call it. But I shake my booty a little bit, and you get the round. And what it does is, we don't flatten it like a let's say a Freddy's that's super thin. We like to flatten it so that there's juices still coming out. We do it on a flat top, and with our seasoning that is proprietary for us, putting that on, it's a 2.5 minute process. But what it does is it caramelizes the outside, gets that gristle kind of the flavor. It's on a flat top, so no juices are falling through into the grill. And it just comes out and it's so juicy. It's so flavorful. And we have like 20 plus different varieties of it, which my favorite is our red card. And you may go, why the red card? Well, it's the one item on the menu that has spicy ketchup. So that's your red right there. And we wind up having with a spicy ketchup, jalapenos, tomatoes, lettuce, a patty, whipped cream cheese so that it spreads real well, another patty, and then grilled Ortega chili on top. You have the crunchiness of the jalapenos, the Ortega chili, even some lettuce. You have the spice of the spicy ketchup that's made in-house, along with jalapenos, and that whipped cream cheese gives you that smoothness that kind of just finishes it perfectly. So if you could see how I love this burger, you could tell that what we do, everything, for every burger that we have, there's a reason for what's on it, and the palate will love it.
You just made me hungry. It's past lunchtime, and we're talking about steak burgers. Joe is ready for the spice thing. Spicy ketchup's like my jam. So that sounds amazing, and I'm gonna check it out the next time I come by.
Oh, it'll match
Your menu is,
your coat.
yeah, there
The
you
red
go,
will
right,
match your
right.
coat, so it's perfect.
Yeah. I love that. The menu, I've checked it out. It's filled with sports references. Hammer and Hang, Ty Cobb, Hail Mary. Like, do you design first for flavor or for storytelling first?
A flavor is first, obviously. I've got to make sure that everything connects. But things like the red card, like I described, the one with the one spicy ketchup on our menu, makes it easier for the staff also to remember. But our Triple Crown is actually named after like horse racing's Triple Crown, not the baseball, three different aspects. But that has three items besides the burgers of egg, bacon, and our fry sauce. But like, for instance, the Hammer and Hank, we grew up in Detroit. You may see behind me like an Al Kaline. My dad's a big Tiger fan. This was before my time. I know everybody thinks I'm old and all, but Hammer and Hank was Hank Greenberg back in the day, Jewish player for the Tigers. And so our pastrami, which is a Jewish style pastrami sandwich, is named after him. So there's all kinds of try to connect what the flavor is with a certain person or player or term.
Amazing. You described Matty G's as like a mini Hall of Fame. So
Mhm.
how intentional were you about designing the space to have those connections with family, the story time, repeat visits, like all of that kind of stuff, the nostalgic perspective of when you walk in the restaurant?
Well, as I said, it's evolved through time. My dad is the one who he's his own Picasso. He wants his big wall that he can use as a like a I don't know, a painting or what have you. And he looks at the items that he can find both that we have in house or that he can find online or through people. Even we even went to Nevada one time to find some old gloves that some guys had of 50s and 60s stars, and he puts it together. He's got a knack for it. He puts it up where it's relatable, it's educational, and it just flows for the restaurant. Most of the items that we have will have like a glass bowls of people in a shadow box with a now description of who they are. So a lot of times when people will come in, whether they order at the counter or whether it's full service at a different restaurant, they'll order and then start walking around. And it brings a smile to my face because it's a, pat on the back for what my dad has done. But it's also cool when you can, like I say, teach people about sports and have that generational gap brought back close so that they can go, hey, so this guy, Babe Ruth, was, a pitcher and hitter. Your Shohei Otani, he's 100 years later, basically. But this is the original type slugger and everything else. And then you can tell about all the stories of Ruth or then the Mantles and, Sandy Koufax and how his career ended early. And then you could also do Lions fans. We're from Detroit. So, we talk about um, the Lions stink. I mean, the Lions not being good since it was in 1957 or 59 since Bobby Lane last won. The Super Bowl didn't even exist. And, the Red Wings with Lindsey and Howe, and I forget the third person right now, but the line they had, that along with all the other sports that we have, you see people just their food sitting there getting cold because they're watching and reading and enjoying themselves. And we have games on, of course, of today's stars. And obviously, when let's say the Dodgers won in Houston, the whole bar somebody bought around because they're a big Dodger fans. So we still have that aspect, for the person who wants to see live today things. But as a whole, it's trying to be that old family sports restaurant.
I love it. And in a world of today where there's QR codes and everybody wants stuff now, in and out, fast turnover, having that kind of old school, high touch dining experience that is storytelling along with nostalgic, it's like this perfect connection. As you scale, because I know y'all recently opened one in Houston in September, if I'm not mistaken. So first off,
Yep.
congrats for your first
Thank you.
Texas-based one. You need to come to Dallas next. Let's do this so I can have it more frequently. Anyhow, how do you protect that kind of emotional connection as you move into some of these larger, and potentially more competitive markets?
What we do for any franchise that's going to sign up or signs up, for instance, with Houston, we have our team go out there. That includes myself, my wife, my 15-year-old son even worked. We have our GM from other stores, our training team go out there so that we can try to portray what the Matty G's image is. First, they're obviously coming for a discovery day and they see us in Mesa and how it works and the efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. But additionally, they try to get the vibe. And what we're trying to do by also being part of not only their training, their opening, and then staying there after they're open for a time is to try to explain how we want the vibe, how we want the feel to be. We can put up all these beautiful decor, nostalgic memorabilia, But if everybody just has a blank look on their face, it does no good. So the goal is to have that customer service where before Matty G's, back in 2008 through 10, I had Italian restaurants. And you may remember the crash of that time. Well, I went from 2 to 1. And eventually there was one day I remember where I had 4 people walk in. And it was so depressing. It was so sad because we were hit where Countrywide was. And it eventually did sell and we moved on. But what my wife always says is be grateful for everybody who comes in through the door. And we are grateful. Every person who walks in spends their hard earned money at our restaurant. I want to thank them personally, but also I want to feel like our franchises understand that as well. So when people walk in, hey, it is like they're coming to our house, see our house, our decor, our whole beautiful restaurant. Come in, sit down. Let's sit down with the restaurant. Your server's not going to be an order taker that just has a tablet and says, oh, what do you want? Coke, this, that, or the other. The goal is to have them understand the menu so that they can explain it to people. And when people do read it, they get more of a vibe of who we are through our names, like you said, of the items, but then the food itself, when it comes out and how it really is thought through, it's a process to make it. And then when they enjoy it, it's like, hey, come on back to see us again. We're family. We talk about um, an extended family. During COVID in our Mesa location, it's a great story because I worked like 30 out of 31 days. We went down to the small staff and we just were there. And it was reaching out to people on social media, not to come in to buy something, but it was, hey, just come in to make sure you're okay. Let's just come in. We're used to seeing you once a week. And now nobody's seen each other for a little while. Come in and even just to say hello, make sure that you're okay. And that's what we try to portray for the future of restaurants that we have. We just want to make sure that it's a family. And when they come in and once they dine there and hopefully become regulars, they're part of our family for a long time.
I love it. You're creating like that old school neighborhood restaurant that everybody goes and hangs out to after school, after work, on weekends, big game day, whatever. It's like the place that everybody knows to go meet up at. That's very old school, but it's something that needs to become new school, and you're making that transition. I absolutely love it. You referenced the training program for an incoming or new franchisee. I'd love to dive into that a tad further if you don't mind. What are those systems that separates just somebody running a restaurant from being able to replicate that in different markets with different owners and operators through a franchise model? What are those systems that have to be locked in?
Well, I think we have the core that most places have with our Bible, our training, our standard operating procedures. We have all that. But what's different about us is what we try to do is I'm actually going to be training you. My wife is actually going to be training you. Our GM is actually going to be training you. People who have done this for 5 to 10 years. And we're betting on them as much as they're betting on us. We need those first few to really be successful and grow. So when they come in, they're not having a guy who is, I don't want to say a guy or girl is 9 to 5. And once they're off the clock, they don't care about Matty G's. They're training with me next to me. Like I say, I put my little shimmy shake when I'm flattening the burgers. When we do that, my wife is explaining like, hey, as much as we love every customer, this is the way we do it. We can't make changes. We can't change the way we, let's say, have a temp on our burgers. And the people that have been with us, I hope are Matty G lifers, but the people training them have been with us 5, 6 years. We've all experienced what seems like almost every different scenario possible, positive, negative, and everything in between. And so when somebody is coming into the system, we have our discovery days. We do have our team that either goes out to the restaurant or they can have it trained in our Arizona location. But they're going to get somebody that's not, oh, do this, and then walks out the door. We're going to be there with them throughout the entire process till they perfect it because our ass is on the line just like theirs.
Well, I love that. Being a tad bit of hold handing, more so ensuring that when you walk away, they're replicating the model that you ultimately want them to, because that's how they're successful and therefore you're successful. So I love that. Not every potential franchisee is right for every model. So who succeeds best inside of this model? And maybe who's the opposite? And who's the people that shouldn't raise their hand?
The people that shouldn't raise their hand are the people that think that if they just put 100 grand or 200 grand and then they have a restaurant. That's just not how it works. The restaurant business isn't like that. It's a 24/7 type restaurant. If you're just throwing money, you're probably better off putting it into housing or into the stock market. The restaurant business is one where you have to be hands-on or at least be able to do everything that somebody else can't. You don't necessarily have to be the best chef in the world or cook or server or bartender, but you have to be able to fill in case somebody doesn't show up. You have to be that person who does all these aspects so you can see what's going right as far as the process and what needs to be improved. We look at a 6 to 8 minute ticket time for our fast casual and 10 to 12 minutes on our full service. Well, what if we got to 25? If you don't understand the process, you can't fix it, right? So we need to be aware 25 is unacceptable, but how do we get better? There's little things that, you know, you always watch stuff like Everybody Loves Raymond. The mom puts love into the food, and that's why it's so good. Well, you might laugh, but if you put some love and caring into the food, it does taste better. And the way we do it, you want to take pride in the way you do it. So somebody who's willing to be there, spend the time, learn every aspect of it, meaning from cook to bartender to server and everything in between, to know how to do those things in case something goes wrong. Now, we're not saying that you need to do that 24/7. If you want to do it, that's awesome. Families that want to have their own business and be part of it and be the face of the restaurant, that is perfect. That's the ideal person. But in today's world, that's not necessarily feasible as we grow. But we do need somebody who's going to spend the time, be there, know aspects of it from the fryer to the grill and overcooking and being proper and you name it. If they know it, they'll be successful. You put the time in, you're going to make the money. If you don't put the time in, you're taking your chances.
100%. So you're looking for somebody who's going to be invested, not just with capital, but with themselves in order to be successful. I love that. In the world of franchising, there's certain things that we can disclose publicly, and then there's certain things that we have to wait for, like the NDA to be signed before we can kind of cross certain thresholds. So without getting into any kind of areas that we shouldn't get into, the investment range for your brand compared to some other like legacy burger brands is substantially less. And that's amazing. So first and foremost, what does the franchisee need to get right kind of in that first 90 days, let's say, to help them not only get successfully open, soft, and then full, but ultimately get to a place in which they're starting to cash flow?
Like you said, I'll try to save the things that I'm allowed to say. But basically, one reason we're able to open at a less expensive aspect and put money in is one, that's my goal, is I want people like myself that can be part of our Matty G's family. But we take a second gen space, and through what we've talked about, our decor, our color scheme, that's how it becomes a Matty G's. We don't have to have at this point every restaurant look exactly the same. So if you look at fast casual restaurants, I think the minimum you're going to find outside of us that are built out is 400 grand up to, who knows what. And then full service is 750 and up. We're looking at the 115 to 215 range. And that is really feasible. By doing it through a second gen, you already, as most people know, you have the core. You'll have your hood, your bar, small or large. You have your walk-in. You name it. We'll help you also find that spot to make sure that it's operationally acceptable. But by doing that, we can normally get free rent from a landlord and improvements as well. And then our goal is to honestly, we say, you should be open in 90 to 120 days. But we've opened as early as 5 weeks. So when you're getting free rent for 90 to 120 days, but you're open in 45, you're able to get cash flow coming in. You're able to work out the kinks where, like we said earlier, we do a soft opening. We want everything to be right. I'm there. Our team is there to make sure that we get through those hiccups. At the last store, our POS didn't put tips allowed for a full service restaurant. I wanted to shoot somebody. But if we had a crazy restaurant where there's a million people there, it would have been awful. But it was a soft opening. We were slightly busy, but we were able to talk to the customers and understand. And in our scenario, like I said, if we're open in that 5-6 weeks, their goal is they have to be trained and operating till that point. They should have their discovery day, whether Mesa or the other locations, be part of the build out so they understand this dishwasher water line goes here and we need to turn on this water. Little things like that can change it. But by doing that, they'll understand every part of the restaurant. So when they're open and something goes wrong, we're there to help them. But they've also got the core 75% of knowledge to know that if something goes wrong, they know how to fix it. And then that little bit that comes up will help them. And then by the time we quote leave, not that we're ever gone because they probably don't want to see me as much as they do, but we're there. But if not, they're able to handle it. And that's the biggest thing with business is to not freak out. The restaurant business is known as having cooks that freak out when there's 20 tickets, when people are coming through. But my wife likes to say, be prepared for as if there's 100 people going to walk in your door in the next minute. And so we want to leave whatever franchisee is able to handle those 100 people in the next 5 minutes. And that's kind of where we're at.
That's amazing. And you're doing it in 5, 6 weeks. Obviously the investment range substantially lower than some other concepts that are, at least in a similar space as yours. So you can cash flow fast. You want them to be super hands-on. You're going to help them through that process so that when things go wrong after you leave, they know how to fix it. That's amazing. That's how you ensure quality and culture and all of that. It can be scaled and replicated. So kudos to you and your team for that.
Thank you.
In terms of expansion, you've gone multiple places now. Arizona, we referenced Houston earlier, which is a tier 1 food city. Like that is a foodie mecca, specifically the Heights area where you're at, I know. So why Houston? Why the Houston Heights area? Why now? And what's the next location that we should be keeping our eye out for, if you will, in the Matty G space?
Well, we are also in Idaho, Eagle, Idaho, which is also a beautiful town, and that's a beautiful restaurant as well. So basically, we are open to any place, but as you know, in franchising, you have to be registered in certain states. And so we haven't spent the money necessarily to register until we have interest. But the right to work states is where we like to go. And the reason for that is the labor aspect. For instance, here in Arizona, it's $13, let's say, for minimum wage. California is like 22 for minimum wage now in fast food, right? Where in right to work states such as Texas, it's $2.13 for a server and it's $7.50 for a minimum wage. So what that does is it allows you in, let's say, Texas, we like to push the full service model because you could have basically 6 people for the same price as one person here in Arizona. That gives you better customer service. It allows everybody to spend more time with the customers, the better guest experience, right? And also, by not having state income tax there, it's also wonderful too. But we'll talk about that at another time. But the gist of it is that we would like to grow in more of those right to work states because that extra 5-10%, our royalty is 5%. But our labor savings in the Texas is way higher than that 5% if you were to compare apples to Arizona, and way much better than, let's say, a California. And by having that aspect, that's where we would like to grow because it'll hit the bottom line. And our goal for everyone throughout the entire history or future of Matty G's is to make money. But in this case, we're ensuring an extra 5-10% that's going in their pocket and their bottom line, and they can be in the black. We're not against going to other places. There are many great locations throughout the United States where this could work, but that's our focus over the next year or two.
I love that. I love that. And as we scale it slightly forward from that 1 to 2 year timeline, I'm going to use a sports analogy, home run. So what would a home run look like? In terms of number of locations and let's say the next 3 to 5 years for you guys?
Where we're at is we don't want to really grow more than 5 as our maximum for a year. Normally the goal is going to be about 3. And because we want to have a hands-on approach to making sure they're successful, that's kind of where it can be, where we can be in either multiple locations, but not, if we open 10, that's not fair to the franchisee who spent their hard-earned money to get us. So we want to get a few at a time, be able to have that personal touch, be there to make sure they're successful. But once we hit the 10 mark, I think that will be our stepping point where we'll have more of a training team. I'm always still going to be part of it, but more of a training team that's dedicated to openings. But for now, we have the team that does part-time training, part-time stores, because we also don't, I always say I like to cook once in a while because I don't want to lose my skills. And we want to it's a continual evolution of the business. So there's always, we can do something better. And so we also have to have our hand on working as well. So that 3 to 5 a year is ideal. And then once we hit 10, I'm coming back on the show and thanking you again. And we're going to party in Dallas.
I love it. Yeah. So let's put that one on the books because you know we're going to make that happen. So
Absolutely.
that's amazing, though, that the fact that you want to grow strategically, where you're not overdoing yourself, your team, and then as a result, shortchanging your franchisees. It just showcases the real will that you have towards ensuring your franchisee success. So I can't applaud you for that enough. There's a lot of franchise brands out there that just want to hit the fast forward button, and sometimes quality can get diminished as a result. And you are really putting quality over quantity. So great job for that.
Well, thank you.
So, for maybe some other, let's say, people out there that have a food related restaurant, quick, fast dining, what have you, that are interested in possibly following something similar to what you did in creating a franchise model, share with them what was one lesson that you learned maybe the hard way when it comes to creating a franchise.
That's a great question. And the way I would say it is this: not everybody is you. Even though a franchisee wants to be part of the restaurant, wants to own it, and they'll explain that, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm so excited. When it really comes down to working and doing once it's open, people are different. People can sometimes change. Situations change based on outside influences. So always have that kind of backup plan in mind of, hey, if this, then what do we do? Because, like you said, we could chase the money and we could try to be at, let's say, 50 stores within a certain time. But if they're closing, then what good is it? And so remember, when you're starting a franchise, you're betting on those people to succeed, just like they're investing in you, but you're betting on them. Your name is on the board. And if you open 5 and 5 close, nobody's going to want a franchise with you. So you need to make sure that you're successful and try to find that person or situation that you can be confident that once I leave, they got this. And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has successes. All those things happen. But know that you're investing in a good person first and foremost, because that's really most important. That they have a good sense of the business, and that they really understand that restaurants are 24/7. Because you never know. You might think you got the best staff, everything's great, everybody works, everybody's trained. Then the next thing you know, 2 people leave in the same week and you're short staffed and having to do it yourself and train and hire at the same time. Excuse me.
100%. That's a great lesson. That's a great lesson. So I know I've got a client that's been waiting for this particular episode because they've been interested in your model. We've been talking about it. But for other folks besides that one, because I'm going to interject them with you in the near future. But for other folks listening to the show that are like, man, this brand sounds super interesting. I want to know more. How do they get in contact with you and your team to learn more?
They can go to our website at mattygs.com. There's the franchise page where they can click on that and put in their info, and we'll get back to them. They could also go email us at mgfranchise@yahoo.com. So M like Mary, G like Grant, franchise@yahoo.com. And we'll respond to them very quickly, most likely, and we can start the conversations.
I love that. I will ensure that those social links are down in the comments. So just scroll down there to get the emails, the website, everything like that to be able to reach out to Matty and his team. Matt, this has been super powerful. What stood out to me is that you're not treating nostalgia like a gimmick. You're treating it like infrastructure. And that is a humongous differentiating factor between yourself and some other kind of nostalgic driven brands. You engineered a product, you systemized experience, you built a franchise model that allows people to scale without stripping away what made the brand matter to begin with. That's not easy. And that's why Matty's works. So kudos to you, your team, for the brand that you built and for the story that you just shared with us. This is amazing. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun.
Same here. Same here. So for anybody out there that's listening, especially franchise buyers, here's your takeaway. Revenue doesn't always equal value, and passion alone does not scale. But when you scale it with stories, systems, and standards, and they all align, now you've got a winner. So if you're considering franchising, investing, or building a business, and you don't want to be trapped, this episode is your reminder. Build something that people love. Then go build it the way that others can run it. Matt, again, thank you so much for being on, sharing your real story behind the brand. Everyone listening, understand your buyers, your partners, and investors, what they actually look for. Subscribe to the Franchise Growth Show. And until then, let's get out there, build strategically, and play and scale smarter. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and Happy New Year to all.